Okay, fabulous. So next we have Richard Oliver, who is delivering a session on solving IT challenges with smart service integration.
Allegedly. Over to you. Thank you. Yes, so good afternoon. My name's Richard Oliver. Just for a bit of context, I'm an independent consultant that specialises in business and service architecture, and I've been working in the SIAM world before it became SIAM. It was just known as IT integration, way back in the distant past. I also worked or supported the SIAM Special Interest Group by ITSMF, published a paper on how to write a business case for SIAM, and a load of other collateral with Steve that's sitting there. We worked really hard to put races together and all sorts of stuff around SIAM. So I've now sort of migrated to become a volunteer with the Scopism, and I was lead author on this compendium. So what I plan to talk about today is the journey that we went through. Let's see where we go. Oh look, I've got an extra slide in here now. Right, so I'll talk about the journey so far. So that was the journey with the compendium, because not all is as it seems when it comes to this compendium. Identifying key IT challenges, understanding smart service integration, talk about where the compendium can help, and further direction and innovation. Now, I will say mine is a helicopter view, not an in-the-weeds view. But there's other people talking about AI and things. I just maybe mention it, but it's more a helicopter view of things to give you some thought-provoking stuff to go away back into your organisation to think, oh yeah, maybe we could look at that, or where we go. So the journey so far. Is it going to work? Right, so the compendium started off as we were going to look at small internal IT departments, and could SIAM become an alternative service management approach. So it was called SIAM as an alternative management approach for internal IT teams. Okay, very important to remember that. So where we looked at the type of things that an internal IT that SIAM could help with. And we rapidly realised that if we did that, we would just repeat the book of knowledge against an internal IT team rather than a big company with a multi-vendor supply. So we then looked at how we could solve the challenges. So I'll just... Identifying key challenges, we decided quite quickly that we had to ask 3 questions. What challenges are there? Why do they exist? And the categories they'd be in, and how the SIAM methodology could help. Now, as I say, you all know that it's big vendors and big suppliers, but there is a lot of SIAM stuff that can be taken into smaller companies. So if we look at this, what challenges do you think that IT teams have today? Yep.
Measuring performance of internal groups.
Okay, yep. Cost. Oh, look, we'll put that one up, shall we? Cost. That's a good one.
I haven't read the slides.
No, that's fine. Yep. So everybody's got cost issues. We've got issues around agility and making sure that, you know, what you're doing today works and how you can change it. How many people have used post-it note boards to map out their services and then keep moving them around and all the rest of it? Well, yeah, absolutely. You then have cybersecurity issues. Data is key. Somebody said data is king. It is, and in today's modern world, giving it away to other people is not where you want to be. You know, how many times have you been online, you've typed in something into, I don't know, Facebook or LinkedIn, and the next minute you get an advert in your feed for something similar? You know, you have to be protective of where you're being. And then the other one is, as this gentleman over here said, performance. You know, I'm a big Formula 1 fan, so obviously if they can change 4 wheels in under 2 seconds, you know, IT teams should be able to perform and respond to a ticket in 10 minutes. So that's the 4 challenges. I'm going to briefly talk through the challenges a bit more under categories. So I've got 3 categories. I've got financial. I can't remember the slides. I'm sorry about this. I just want to check my slide issues. Yep, we'll talk about it on here. Right, so I've got financial issues. So how many people look at their IT budget and people go, I need you to cut costs. We've got no spare money to invest. You've got to keep your budget as it is. Now that works in a big IT team and in a small one. And at the same time, they'll say, over here, there's this nice new piece of technology. Can we integrate this new technology with our old technology, but at a cheaper cost? It's a challenge you have to do every day. So financial is one of the categories. Technical. I've worked with a lot of clients recently that they go out and the departments procure software as a service or platform as a service outside of IT. So the IT budget gets eroded, not through IT, but then IT is expected to pick it up, fix it, run with it, do all the knowledge behind it, and make sure that it integrates with everything else and that it's secure. It's a big challenge for big companies with their multi-vendors, but equally small IT teams within a business have the same problems. They have business units that buy the software, they have business units that are running it, then they phone different help desks. It gives you disjointed services, it gives you multiple aspects of how to support it. How do I know as a user not to phone my typical service desk, but I've got to phone somebody else's service desk because that's where the software comes from? It leads to poor service quality, increased costs, potential of technical debt through duplication of services, applications, all sorts of stuff. You could have licenses that are procured that you never use. And then the third one is human. Now, Peter talked about this one, about staff retention and upskilling and all the rest of it. How can you retain your staff? Mind you, I've also worked for a client that didn't want to upskill their staff because they were worried that they would leave because they were more marketable. That's an interesting concept, but it's the other way around. What we found today is that, I've worked with a lot of companies that Peter also mentioned getting rid of level 2. I worked with a client last year that got rid of level 2, but what they did with their level 2 engineers was they made them innovators and looking after continual improvement. So it freed up a resource to look at how they could do new stuff and how they could improve their services rather than just putting them on the scrap heap and wasting them. There were times where level 2 would have been useful. Major incident management sometimes could have had a level 2 person in the way, but they worked around that. So that's the sort of thing that, are the challenges that people have. So how can SIAM help you with these challenges? We can improve the governance. Everybody today's talked about strict governance with SIAM. Well, exactly. And if you've got an IT team that can put a governance layer in to make sure that if HR go off and buy a SaaS tool or a SaaS application or buy another tool, it fits in with the business strategy, it aligns to the business goals, they can decide whether it's actually needed because they already have a tool over here that does it. It's got to be good. So governance is key, and in some instances governance is a no-brainer. You have to have it because if you don't, everything will fall down. Enable cross-contract integration. Now everyone talks about multi-vendors and aligning contracts, but if I'm an IT team, I have teams within my areas that are delivering, but we also have externals. I'll mention SaaS providers again because you've got the SaaS providers, but you've also got networks and infrastructure maybe. If you can align the contracts, get the right SLAs, get the right reporting done and everything else, it's got to improve customer satisfaction. So again, SIAM enables cross-contract integration. So consider that. It improves efficiency. If you've got people working common processes, common goals, common attitudes, efficiency's got to go up. You know, you can't have it, well, I suppose you could if people's attitude was the wrong way around, but the idea is to improve efficiency, get customer experience raised, and look at outcomes rather than just delivering a service. Improve cost spend profile. I mentioned duplication of software. If you've got a company that's lots of people can procure and buy things, you end up with technical debt, you end up with duplicated hardware that's not used, like Peter said, he found a cupboard with £1 million worth of telephones in it that people didn't want, you know. You can find it with computers, you can find it with all sorts. So technical debt goes up, software, applications. I've worked for companies where somebody's gone out to buy a drawing package and everyone says, why are you buying a drawing package? We've got this one over here that works. Oh yeah, but it doesn't do what I want. Well, it would if you just asked for the right bits of it. You know, I use Word, but I worked in a place that had Word and it had Pages and it had some other, Google Docs probably, and trying to integrate them all and trying to get everybody using the same thing was really difficult. So if you've got the right governance and the right contracting, you can reduce your cost spend profile. And then improve communications, because again, if you've got common processes, common reporting, common service levels, etc., communications goes up. If you integrate tools, which we'll come on to in a minute, it improves collaboration, which again is a SIAM principle. So there we go. So, as the title of the compendium said, it's IT challenges with smart service integration. Now, what do people think smart service integration is? Because I'm going to put a quote up in a minute that is what I think it is. Then I'll talk about some strategies and common pitfalls and that. But what's people's ideas of smart service integration? Deathly high.
Data-driven decision-making.
Okay. Were you going to say something?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on then.
One of them.
Yeah, you can.
Like integrated tooling, integrated technology.
Yep. Yeah. So if we look at this, smart service integration, and I'm going to read this one. It refers to the strategic coordination of smart services, those powered by data, algorithms, connected devices within a broader ecosystem of service providers, platforms, and customer touchpoints. Bit of a mouthful, that's why I've read it rather than just talk. That's exactly what you two said. Data and connected devices. So you've got Internet of Things, you've got AI, you've got all those sort of things. If you integrate them all together, that's what's known as smart service integration. And it blends the principles of service integration and management with the capabilities of smart products and the Internet of Things to create a unified intelligent service delivery model. So that's what the compendium talks about, in the fact that it talks about service integration, it talks about the challenges that I've mentioned earlier and how it all comes together. So strategies that can help you with this. Ensure you get good system interoperability. So again, if you're going to have tools that talk to each other, make sure that you have a good interoperability. Review your business case and make sure that your business case aligns with the goals that you're trying to put in IT. Because again, I've worked with people that have gone down that route for their business goals, not told IT and the other pieces who go off down that route because they're bringing in technology and stuff, and then the two don't work. Foster collaboration between teams and suppliers. I've already mentioned this through good contracting, good communications, good reporting, good data. People talk about, I talk about rubbish in, rubbish out. If you get the wrong data, it doesn't matter who's got it. If it gives you the wrong ideas, then it's not worth having. Even if you've got AI scraping it, if it's not good data, it's wasted. But if you can get good collaboration between your internal teams and your suppliers, it drives up efficiency, it drives up accountability, which again SIAM helps with, and it drives up customer satisfaction. Clear performance management and reporting. Again, how many people, no, I'm going to ask, oh yeah, how many people rely on AI for their reports at the moment? Anybody? I'm working with a client at the moment that has said, we're going to get rid of, I talked to the guys up here earlier, we're going to get rid of our service level managers and our performance managers because AI can do the job better. Hold that thought. Do you think that through AI you can get clear performance management and reporting? We've already said if the data's not very good. And who notices it and then who goes away and does something about it? The chatbot? I don't think so. Knowledge and configuration management integration. If you integrate your tools well enough, you can often integrate knowledge and config management stuff. We all talk about ServiceNow. ServiceNow's got its own knowledge base in it. It also can be used as a config management tool. If you get it set up right, you can link the two together. So your help desk will type in that it's got a problem with, I don't know, widget X, and a knowledge article will come up against widget X because they've linked the two together. And I think this is, again, most important, have robust governance and sound operating models. I do a lot of work with people around operating models, and they make it disparate across the business because that's how they think it should be, and they have nobody that's accountable for certain things, but they assume that that doesn't matter because if it's over there, I can go to Fred and get it. And you go to Fred to get it, and he says, oh, I only do that once every 3 months. And it's like, yeah, but I need it today. Well, come back in February when I've done the next run. You know, it doesn't always work. The operating model has to, I work with companies and they go, I want to put this in, and you go, well, what's your operating model look like? Well, what? What's an operating model? Why do I need to do that? I just want you to implement ServiceNow, Halo, whatever it happens to be, and you need this other stuff, and then the governance around it. You know, IT internal teams need good governance around them, but you also need to make sure that that governance works with the HR team, with the finance team, with all the other teams, because if they're changing things and tweaking things that impacts IT, it's very difficult. But again, putting SIAM in place helps with all this because it puts in the robust governance. So where does SIAM fit? As we've said, SIAM is flexible, it's modular, it works with lean, and it enables you to control, I don't like the word control, but it enables you to control things in a much more clean manner, shall we say. So you get better collaboration and communication. You get the establishment aligned to business goals. How many people don't tell their suppliers what their end vision is? You know, they just go to them and say, can you provide me a network? Yeah, I can provide you a network, no problem at all. So they give you a 1 gig network and you needed a 50 gig network or whatever because you have never told them the stuff. I do a lot of work with people where I write requirements for them to make sure that the suppliers know what we're asking for. But understanding what we're asking for is probably one of the most difficult jobs ever because people change their mind tomorrow. They'll no, that's not what we want. If you put a bit of SIAM governance in place, you can make inroads at trying to make sure that the business goals are aligned and that you can get all your departments working in harmony. Better risk management. Now I claim this because if you've got good governance, you're looking at risks in a different way. If you've got disparate, disjointed services that people are buying SaaS off this one and something else off that one and something else off that one and not telling the IT team, there are risks around it of data and cyber security issues, not being able to fix it properly. it's not my fault, it's your fault blame game because I don't know anything about it. You know, I work with a company where the first time the IT team knew anything about a piece of software that was being put on the network was when somebody phoned up that it had broken. And it's like, well, what is it? We've never heard of it. Oh, well, we've had it for 3 months. But there was no collaboration, no reporting, major risks. Reduced operational complexity. Now, somebody said earlier about complexity, and it might not be less complex, but if you've got, in my head anyway, if you've got common processes and everybody's working to the same goals, and you've got the same reporting levels and so on and so forth, operational complexity surely is simplified. If you haven't got to think, oh, well, with that service, the SLA is I've got to fix that one in 10 minutes, but this one over here I've got 15 minutes, and that one over there I've got 25 minutes. How do I work it? So I think that's quite important. And then, of course, the main one, increased customer satisfaction. We all want that. And the only way you get it is through, well, I think, through outcome-based, rather than worrying that your IT is working. You've got to make sure that it's working, but it's giving the customer what they actually want. If it's not giving them what they want, why is that? And what can you do about it? So, again, while we were looking at the compendium, we talked about some of the pitfalls of starting this journey. Underestimating complexity. We haven't talked today, but how many have transferred from one ITSM tool to a different ITSM tool? You know, I've done lots of them from Remedy to ServiceNow, from ServiceNow to something else. How many of you have done that sort of thing? Does it ever run smoothly, and does it ever work in budget? No. There you go. That's one of the big... Pardon? No, that's very true, yeah. Implement a different part of ServiceNow and you get difficulties as well, but yeah. But it's just the way it is. Everybody underestimates complexity. I have a saying stuck to the top of my computer that said, why when we try and simplify everything complicated, do we make it more complicated? I don't know the answer, but I like the saying. Inadequate testing. How many, now I did a presentation at ITSMF on this a few years ago, but I still haven't seen any output from it. How many putting in a SIAM solution test their SIAM solution? How many of you test a process through the SIAM solution? Yeah. But how do you know the rest of it works? Again, with underestimating the complexity and inadequate testing, it is so easy to put something in place that doesn't work. You go, oh, I never thought of that. Didn't do that. Not looking at what went wrong previously. I have a lot of people that say to me, oh yeah, we do lessons learned. I said, no, you do lessons identified. They only become lessons learned when you've actually done something about it. And then you don't have that problem again. Again, I find people all the time will go, yeah, well, I've got it in my lessons learned folder over here. Well, what have you done about it? Oh, nothing. Have you put it into continuous improvement opportunity? No. Why not? Well, we don't run continuous improvement. We just improve every day. We're agile. It's like, okay. Yes, food for thought. And then poor planning. There is a saying about how many P's it is, isn't it? That something about poor planning gives poor performance or something, I don't know. So they're just some of the common pitfalls that we discussed, and we've tried to look in the compendium at, you know, not necessarily, well, ways of stopping those pitfalls by maybe introducing a bit of technology or introducing a role, as in a person. So this is where I think the compendium can help. what we've done is it explains a lot more detail about the challenges that I've been through. So there's, I think there's something like 7 or 8 challenges that we've identified in the compendium, from staff retention through inconsistent processes through, I can't remember, quite a few anyway. And the compendium will give you more details on those challenges. They'll also provide you with advice on how SIAM can help overcome them. So I've mentioned some of the stuff, do governance and all the rest of it, but as I say, the compendium goes into more details. It will suggest maybe putting a business relationship manager in place, or maybe putting a service level manager in place, or whatever, but it gives you ideas of how you can overcome some of the challenges. It gives you real world case studies. Everybody that contributed and wrote a section wrote a case study or 2 around that challenge. So not only were the authors just writing stuff because they could find it on Copilot or ChatGPT, they were taking real world things that they'd been involved with and using those as case studies. So where I'm coming from is what we've said in here, we know works because we've been there and done it. And most importantly of all, it shows that SIAM is not just for integrating and managing large multi-vendor service providers to deliver that solution. You can use it in an internal IT organisation. Whenever I speak to people about SIAM, I go, oh yeah, that's for multi-vendors and I haven't got any. Well, get them to read this. So I'm going to leave you with a few more examples, but these are going to be of things that at the time we thought were future directions and innovations, but clearly some of them are coming in now. They might even be available for certain people. So bear with me. Don't turn around and go, oh, well, that's already here. So preparing for the next generation of integration challenges. What do I mean by that? Well, I mentioned it earlier, but I'll repeat it now. Make sure your business goals align with where you want to be. Understand what the marketplace is doing and where you believe your company fit in. So how will it impact your operating model? What's your vision? And does that align with the business goals? Because if you go down the wrong route, expensive, direction change could be not ideal. Look at emerging technology. Now under this, I've got a couple of things. There's emerging technology such as frameworks, and there's emerging technology as adaptive frameworks and adaptive technology is what I let's just check whether that's actually a slide. It shouldn't be, but yeah. So what do I mean by adaptive frameworks? I mean a framework that you can put in place that is firstly repeatable, secondly tailorable, thirdly keeps up to date. So if you look at things like SIAM, IT for IT, COBIT, which have already all been talked about, I'm going to throw Sophia into the mix. How many people use Sophia? Skills for the Information Age. I think it's a wonderful document. If you haven't looked at it, go online and look at Sophia, because it's very good when you're looking at staff retention or growth or what roles you need in a place. But they're all what are called adaptive frameworks that stay current, but you can adapt them to your business and how you want to do it. So you can look at that as maybe the structural integrity of your business, so the web or the scaffolding or whatever you want to call it. On top of that, there's adaptive tooling and such like, which is more the physical tooling or the physical spaces that can be reconfigured, adapted, again tailored, but they're the ones that deliver the service. So you get a framework that you work within, and you get applications and technology that you use. So like cloud can be one of the adaptive technologies. SaaS products are adaptive. It gives you the opportunity to grow and reduce without the difficult stuff of having a room full of servers that you no longer want, a room full of telephones that are out of date. I like that one. I'm going to remember that one forever, I think. So yeah, adaptive technology. You had a wonderful session by people up here on the impact of AI. I'm not going to go into what the impact of AI is, but everybody knows that AI is coming. People think it's going to fix everything, and I can get rid of hundreds of members of staff because of it. You know, you read every day in the papers about people that have got rid of staff because AI is coming. And I mentioned earlier that a client I'm working with seems to think that they can do the same. But it's something that people need to be aware of. It's something that they need to look at and go from there, really. Implement continuous improvement and measure success. I'm quite keen, should we call it, on continual improvement, but I also recognise that people do different things with continual improvement, and they'll say, I'm agile, I do continual improvement. I'm for putting continual improvement across a whole company, not just IT. You know, why should HR, I pick on HR a lot, but why should HR not be looking at how they can improve their processes, how they can make the onboarding process for a member of staff easier, and so on and so forth. Also, they might be looking at an opportunity over there that one of the business units could use or utilise. So if you combine all your continual improvement into a central register in a central place, it builds collaboration, it helps potentially reduce costs, and it can make you more efficient. But there are only things, as I say, things you should maybe consider for the future. So, so in conclusion, this is what I've talked. Smart service integration helps you address modern IT. Strategic implementations, effective strategies, the role of SIAM. And I want to leave you with a quote, which again is quite close to the one that Peter put up earlier. And I'll tell you, we didn't work together on it, but I'm going to read it out so I don't get it wrong. So here we go. Remember that adopting SIAM principles and reimagining the role of internal IT isn't just about new frameworks or job titles. It's a cultural shift that requires a clear sense of direction and buy-in across the whole organisation. Okay? The Compendium will help with enabling staff to understand the challenges and how they can maybe look at direction. Senior management need to get involved in strategically positioning it and then moving it forward. Oh, that's me finished. So 10 minutes out and I'm done. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Hope it's given you food for thought.
Does anybody have any questions?
Oh dear. Thought I got away with that one. No.
I was just going to ask, does the compendium include almost like the maturity levels or the stages that you could take step by step to get from, I guess, like a SIAM function to a smart SIAM function?
No.
Okay.
No, it's more around, these are the challenges, this is the sort of things you could do to overcome them,
Yeah.
but it recognises that you don't have to put everything in SIAM in on day one.
Yeah.
You can progressively implement SIAM.
Okay. Cool. That's great. Thank you.
No worries. I knew you'd have to say something, Steve.
Couldn't let you get away without asking
No,
a
definitely
question, mate. So in an IT organisation where they're struggling to keep the lights on,
Yep.
they've not got enough people, they've got no money, all the challenges that we talked about. If you could have kind of 3 wishes for a CIO, what would you tell him to do to get on this path?
I'd tell him to look at shifting left with some of the issues. I'd get him to look at the skill levels that he's got of his staff and why they're struggling.
Using Sophia, of course.
Absolutely, if possible. And the third one is I'd get him to look at what his business goals and outcomes that he wants is. and then look at how, well, fourth one would be how can he get his IT team to become an orchestrator rather than an operator, so an strategic enabler. No worries.
Any other questions? No. Okay. Well, thanks very much, Richard. Big round of applause, please, everybody.